my Wolfpack and welcome to the Nasties Battle League draft analysis. So this is essentially replacing the RBL. It is a doubles league, and you know I've been engaged with the doubles league, and actually a lot of people from the RBL have gone into this one. So it is really exciting for me to play, and actually I'm really looking forward to these matches. There's a few of these guys that I am so terrified of battling because they're just so fantastic. Honestly, I haven't really done any doubles battling for a year, so actually I'm really out of kind of training. Don't know what the term would be, but yeah, I'm not kind of at the kind of peak performance I was back when, you know, I was joining the IBL and the Sword and Shield leagues. So yeah, today we've got Nasties Battle League draft analysis. I think the team looks pretty good. I have made a couple of modifications since, and I'll talk about a couple of them in this video itself, but I have made one further because I'm recording this a couple of weeks in because life has been very busy. But yeah, I was actually first pick of this league, which actually, if you've looked at my other two draft league analysis, I was second from last in both of those. So this was a really, really welcome decision, and immediately this is a mon that I've been wanting to use for everything. So Roaring Moon was the option. Honestly, in doubles, this thing's absolutely hectic. It causes so many problems. It's really, really scary. The fact that we are kind of like open terrestrializing, so anything can terrestrial into anything, can tear into anything else. So you know that's really, really quite scary, and makes planning really, really hard, if I'm honest. But Roaring Moon, honestly, this thing is so amazing. It can live hits. It has got really good attack stat. It's got pretty good defenses, pretty good HP. Speed is pretty good as well. You know, this thing is just absolutely terrifying. Honestly, it's one of my favourite Pokemon to run. I'm glad that I've got hold of it. It's got access to a lot of really good moves. It's got access to things like Tailwind as well, which is really kind of beneficial for it. So yeah, Roaring Moon. Immediately I was just like, yeah, this is the mon. This is one of the mons that I really, really, really want. And then kind of things went through, obviously they didn't come back, and the second pick I was like, actually, I wanted this kind of straight away. And the second pick I wanted was Amoonguss. Now, Amoonguss is really good in doubles if you haven't figured it out already. Obviously, the fact that you can terrestrialize into anything is really, really good itself. It's got access to Pollen Puff, Rage Powder, access to Spore, which is really useful. It's got access to Sludge Bomb, Giga Drain, all things like that. Honestly, this thing is just really, really useful, and it allows potentially for me to be able to set up a Rage Powder whilst also using Roaring Moon to set up things like Dragon Dancers, which actually, you know, as a combination works really nicely. So yeah, Amoonguss was just a really solid pick here. I think that it just combines really nicely with Roaring Moon. The fact that obviously Roaring Moon's got the weakness to the poison, so the psychic types, not psychic types, fairy types, and Amoonguss has the poison typing, and then obviously Amoonguss is weak to the psychic types, which Roaring Moon has dark typing, so that kind of works as a nice combination with these two Pokemon. That's kind of the thought process here. Obviously, I then got another pick straight away because I was on first pick, and I chose Corviknight here. Now, Corviknight has access to a lot of really good moves. It has access to Tailwind, especially for kind of support aspects. Tailwind, you've got Fate Tears, I think it's got access to Screech. It's also got access to things like Brave Bird, Drill Peck, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty good typing. In fact, that it's Steel typing can go quite nicely alongside Roaring Moon. So yeah, Corviknight, really, really cool Pokemon, and I think that this is a mon that can definitely put in a lot of work. Obviously, Tailwind, for having kind of a more mediocre speed team, definitely works really, really nicely. So can be, you know, a really, really cool mon for me to run. Moving on to my next one, I went for Klefki. Now, this was a really interesting pick, and at this point, obviously, I know I picked up Corviknight, which was a Steel type. I saw Klefki, and I was like, actually, Klefki with Prankster has access to Screens, it has access to Trick Room, it has access to Calm Mind, it has access to a lot of other really, really cool moves. Thunder Wave is another option, but, you know, I thought the fact that it's Prankster is really, really cool, and honestly, you know, I'm absolutely enamoured. That's probably the wrong word, but you know, I'm really happy to have Klefki in my team. I think that actually it works really, really well. It has the capacities to do such a good job. So yeah, Klefki, honestly, really glad that I picked this thing up. I think that it's going to be a really solid pick. It's not going to really get any kills, but at the same time, it's going to do that support I need it to do whilst I'm doing other shenanigans with the rest of my team. So after this, I was like, you know what, I kind of need like access to things like Fake Out. I saw Persian quite early on in tier 3, and I thought actually this one is a really solid mon to pick up. It has access to, again, things like Screech, access to Snarl to lower down the special attack of the opponents. It's really fast. Fake Out obviously is an option. Has access to a lot of other pretty good moves in terms of just coverage. But yeah, I thought, you know, this thing is a good tier 3 Pokemon for me to be able to pick up, and actually, yeah, I will use it in quite a few matches, especially kind of using the Screech aspect alongside things potentially like Roaring Moon if I underspeed the Roaring Moon, and then that can just cause shenanigans by hitting really hard. So yeah, that's the idea with Persian here, is that it's just going to get some damage off, not some damage off, it's going to get some support off, but things like Fake Out definitely going to be really good and really helpful. Moving on to the next Pokemon, I went for Clawitzer. At this point, I was a bit like, you know what, I have got to get a Water type. There weren't very many Water types left, and in Tier 3, there were even less Water types. I think there was like 2 Water types that I could have chosen from. And I saw Clawitzer and I was like, actually, this thing has a huge special attack stat. So, whilst it has very low speed, the idea is that with Corviknight, it should be able to get the Tailwind off, this can protect, and then Clawitzer can then use moves to be able to cause damage to the opponent. I've got access to obviously Mega Blaster with things like Water Pulse, Aura Sphere, Heal Pulse, all that kind of stuff. So Clawitzer actually can be a really solid Pokemon here. I think that it's going to be pulling in quite a few wins for me. I think it's got access to obviously the freedom of Terastallizing is going to be really solid for this one, because it's just going to allow me to one-co a lot of different Pokemon. So, you know, Clawitzer, really happy I picked it up. Wasn't on my kind of radar at all initially, but really happy that it kind of ended up available for me to pick up. Next one I went for, I was like, okay, we've got to get tier 4. At this point I had availability for a tier 1, which I don't think I think one other person had access to tier 1 at that point, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to fill up the bottom ends of it before I fill up kind of the other parts. And I saw I had a tier 4 here, so I was like, okay, let's have a look through tier 4, what actually works for me. And I saw Rotom here and I thought, you know what, Rotom definitely can play a role in this. It's got access to things like Discharge, it's got access to Will-O-Wisp, which could be really useful. It's got access to things like Shadow Ball, Electric type attacks, just in general are really good. Thunder Wave, you know, I thought it's not amazing, but as a tier 4 Pokemon, it is definitely good enough for me to be able to play some shenanigans. So, you know, Rotom probably not going to come to many matches, but it has got the capacity to definitely do a few different things. Next up, I went for my tier 5. So one of my 2 tier 5s that I'm picking up. Now, this one I originally I picked up a tier 4 Naplestack, and I actually realised straight after picking it that I had messed up because that wouldn't give me enough points to get a tier 1, which I was going to get. So yeah, I ended up kind of, afterwards we had a grace period, so I made a couple of modifications, and Shroodle is a tier 5, but actually is a really cool tier 5 because it has Prankster, and it also has access to a lot of really good support moves. There is a shenanigan kind of strat that I'm not going to talk about in this video, but there is a strat that I have got that involves Shroodle, and you know, it's a fun strat to say the least. It's got access. Something just beeped. Really weird. It's got access to things like Helping Hand. It's got access to Encore, which can be really cool to use. It's got access to obviously Protect as normal, but yeah, a lot of pretty good moves that can be used in a Prankster with a +1 priority. So I thought that, you know, for a tier 5 actually, this is really solid, and this is a tier 5 that I definitely would bring to a match with this. So yeah, I was like, you know what, it's my tier 5. It's a usable tier 5, I'll take it, because a lot of the other ones aren't particularly useful. My penultimate one now, originally, oh no, actually I went here because I thought another tier 5 mon. Now, I went Hippopotas, Hippowdon, you guys know, from the RBL Season 2, I think might have been, was just absolutely incredible. I picked this thing up mostly because it has the ability to change weather. That's literally the only reason I have it. Has Sandstream as access. It's not going to benefit my team at all, but if there's another team that relies on things like Sun, then I can definitely bring it and play the shenanigans with it. That's literally the only idea that I've got with it. It's a tier 5. Ultimately, I got Strudel for a tier 5, which I picked up afterwards, but yeah, the Hippo, it was just a fun pickup really, but you know, if I need it, I desperately need it for the Sandstream, then obviously I can run it, but ultimately it's not the most important thing on the team, and a lot of tier 5s typically won't come for a lot of the people anyways. So yeah, that was the idea. And the last one that I originally had picked up, and I have picked up Volcarona. Sorry, I had picked up Espeon. So I had picked up Espeon, and I then changed it to Volcarona. I thought Volcarona is a fun mon. It gives me a fire type. It has access to things like Quiver Dance. It has access to kind of some damage output. Realistically, it is quite powerful. But honestly, and I'll tell you, kind of after week 1, I did change my mind on it. I just wasn't convinced that it was working as well as I wanted it to, and I don't think it will be working as well as it would have been working as well as I wanted it to. So I have changed that now to Esperafa, and Esperafa is actually a really cool Pokemon that I'm really excited to use in a lot of matches, because I think it's going to be better for my team than Volcarona. But you know, Volcarona definitely was a fairly solid pick, but I did change it to Esperafa quite soon after. But yeah, that's my team. Obviously, power output, there isn't as much of it, but there is a lot of support here. A lot of access to things like Screech, Fake Tears, Metal Sound, stuff like that, which can, in some cases, be priority, which actually can work out really nicely for my sweeper Pokemon. But yeah, that's kind of the idea with this. I'm not really sure where I'm going with it, but you know what? I've drafted a lot of Pokemon that I really like. I'm really excited to give it a go, and yeah, that's probably going to be it for today. Hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please do like, subscribe, and comment. And yeah, I'm going to be out of here, so have a good one, and I'll see you soon.